Hello everyone, this is Yusuf back for another video. In today's video, it's going to be a little bit more high level in terms of understanding when to use a field and when to use an action result or shared result. So field's pretty self-explanatory. It's a field on a table that you want to store data into. So that's straightforward. Now an action result and a shared result, if you're not familiar with them, are essentially methods terms for creating temporary values that they store in a container, such as a variable. So if you're familiar with variables, then you'll understand this concept very quickly. If not, think of an action result or a shared result as just you want to get a value, but you don't want to store it in a table because you only want to use that value for that given moment in time to maybe put it in a computation, such as what we say here, it's temporary. It's a part of a calculation, but not the final value. Or you need it temporarily in a workflow and method. So for example, you're navigating across screens and you want to be able to take a value that you created in one screen and bring it over to the other screen. This is where you would use an action result. For fields, it's very straightforward. If you have a value and you want to store it because you want to be able to refer back to it for reporting purposes, and you want it to stay there permanently in your database, you'd store it in a field. You wouldn't put it in an action result or a shared result. Now, where the two kind of come together is when I've already just briefly mentioned this, is when you're creating a calculation in the background, right? And that calculation carries a variable, and that variable then needs to be saved into a field. So you're basically taking that entire computation or that entire output from that workflow, you have it stored in a variable, and now you're saying, I want to take this variable, which is the final value, and I want to update it to a field on a particular table. So that's kind of where the two marry. So that's kind of high level when you want to understand when to store data and when not to. So it may be very straightforward, but just like a fundamental when it comes to working a method is that when you're working with values, you have to identify which values are going to be your temporary values that you're not going to want to store in the database and which ones are going to be your permanent values. So the ones that you want to put in the fields. Okay. So what I want to do actually is I want to go into more of the shared result direction. Shared results is a concept when I was working at Method at the beginning wasn't quite clear. And I felt like it would be a great topic for us to kind of dive into in this video. So for a shared result, think of a shared result as an action result, so a variable, right? But that action result, you can actually refer to anywhere in the platform as long as you program it correctly, okay? So an action results, typically, they only stay within the screen that you're in or within the logic that you've created, right? That action result can't be referred back to later. It's only in the logic. But if you wanted to refer to that action result or that variable in a different screen or a different app entirely in Method, you can by using a shared result. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go over to my demo account. Okay. And in my demo account, what you see here is you see, we're going to scroll down and I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see this a little bit better. We're going to scroll down to my potential deals app, which is just a very straightforward custom app that I created. Okay. So in here, we have our potential deals and we have a contact, John Derringer. Now let's say, for example, I just want to be able to, on a potential deal. So if I create a new one, let me just create a new one, test potential deal, right? I want to be able to, I don't see the contact that I need for this potential deal, and it's because I haven't added them yet. I want to be able to add that contact, but then when I go back, once I finish adding that contact, I want that contact to auto-populate on this screen. So how do I do this? Okay. What you would do is you would click add contact. Okay. And in here, what we're going to do is we're actually going to look at the logic that the new contact screen has set up. So this is a fundamental screen that Method already provides out of the box. and already considers for this scenario in its logic. And I'll highlight exactly where that is. So if we go to the focus action right here, okay, so this is happening in the background every time you come to the screen, okay? And then in here, what it's doing is it's going in and it's looking at, actually, we're not going to go to focus action. Sorry, we're not here. We're going to go to the save button, okay? So we'll go to the save button because we're adding the contact and then we're clicking save, but the system needs to know, okay, when I save this contact, do I need to go back to a particular screen and grab the value that I just saved? So as you can see here, you see go back check, which is a control on the screen. So they're leveraging controls. It's not a field, it's just a control. It doesn't live on the contacts table. They're just using this control on screen as a part of their workflow. So in here, after the contact is saved, and notice how they do this right after it's saved, which is very important because they want to grab the newly created contact and bring it back to your screen that you're previously on. Only way they can do that is after it's being saved. So always consider order of operations. So go back check is equal to true. So that means when someone came to this page, they set this value to true. They set this to yes, okay? If it's true, then we need to grab the contact that we just created and we need to put it into a shared result. And the reason why we're doing this is because we want to take this newly created contact and we want to go back to our screen and we want to make sure that we can call that, bring that contact information with us, okay? And this is what we're doing is we're calling that screen. So let's go through this together. So if I go back to my potential deals app, okay, what we got to do is we got to set that go back check field, okay? So we got to set that. So what we're going to do is go back to potential deals and it's just collapsed here at the bottom, okay? And I'm just going to go and open up an existing one, okay? So in here, if I click add contact, what do I want to have happen? Well, I want to be able to, this is where it's important to understand, at what point do we want to capture this information? Well, we want to tell the system to come back here when we're going to that screen. And that's happening when you click that add contact button. So what we're doing is we're saying, okay, custom row click, because that link that you saw within the dropdown is referred to as a custom row click button, okay? So we're going to click that. And in here, it's telling us to go to the new contact screen. But it's not giving us any other option, okay? So what we want to do is, and this is a bug, by the way, I reported this already to Method. I think they're going to be working on this, but anything that is set to clear screen, it should stay as clear screen, and for whatever reason, it doesn't, okay? So now we're going to go back check. Oh, that's not a field, sorry. So we can't do go back check here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to clear screen. Or no, sorry. We're going to go screen active. We're going to go entity. So that was cleared if you notice. So I have to put this back. Again, this is a bug in Method. So nothing to be concerned about if you see this behavior on your side. Method is actively working on this. So we are setting the entity record ID because we want to grab the value of John Derringer, who was the original contact, and we want to grab his customer that he's associated to and add a different contact to that potential deal, not John Derringer, but a part of the same company. So that's why we're setting this up. Okay. So this is telling us bring the customer that John Derringer belongs to and go to the other new contact screen and make sure we automatically associate John Derringer's customer to the new contact because that's where they belong. Okay. So now what we're also going to do is we're going to set that go back check option, right? So what we're going to say is we're going to go back check. So we're putting in a shared result because, again, we want to bring that value over temporarily to the other screen to tell the other screen, hey, we want to come back to this screen with a new value, okay? So we're going to say, we're going to set this to true, okay? And we're going to just title this SR for shared result, go back check, okay? SR go back check. All right, and we're setting this to true, okay? So now when we go see how this issue came back up again, it's causing an issue, right? So we got to go back to clear screen. Okay, so now if I go and I click this, now we've created that shared result, okay? So if we go and we click add contact, what we want to do here is we want to customize the add contact screen, okay? So I'm going to edit this, okay? We're going to go back to the save button, okay? And then we're going to make sure that we're populating that go back check here, okay? Actually, sorry, not on the save. We're doing it on focus. So let's go and highlight, where is that go back check option? We're going to go find that go back checkbox. Oh, it's right here. It's hiding, okay? Because we don't really need to see it on screen. It's hidden. And a neat trick about Method is that when you choose a control that you want to look at, it will tell you what logic is already tied to it. So the logic that's tied to this is the screen load. So we want to go there because the screen load is an area where something is happening automatically in the background when you're visiting the screen. So right here, it's already checking for that shared result back, go back, shared result. It's actually looking for this right now, okay? So in fact, what we actually need to do is, okay, we actually need to rename our shared result. Instead of it also saying SR go back check, it should be result go back. So let's go ahead and do that, okay? Go back. Okay. So again, we're going to our contact, custom row click. Okay. And we're saying result go back. Okay. So this is now going to communicate to that other screen. Oh, I found a result go back shared result and it's set to true, which means I got to perform this logic. So let's go back now. We're connecting the dots here between one screen to another. So let's go back into our new contact screen. Let's customize this. Let's go back to our load, right? Let's go back to our logic. And we're saying if share result go back was true, which it does, we're going to clear it out, right? Because this is very important for shared results. The shared result is never going to clear out because it's meant to be a variable that is going to transfer across multiple screens. So if you're not actively managing the value contained within your shared result, that value is going to stay the next time that someone wants to go to the add contact screen. And you may not want that to happen, right? You may only want it to happen in certain scenarios. So it's very important. An extra thing that you need to consider with shared results is you always have to clear it. Okay, so now that we know that it's set to true, it's entered this conditional, which means we don't need that shared result anymore because we're now telling the system to enter this condition and perform the necessary actions that needs to perform. We can now clear this. Now we're going to store that value into the go back check control on screen. Okay, and then it's going to hide a save and new button. Okay, so then it's hiding the save and new button because when we click save, we don't want to create a new contact. We just want it to go back to the previous screen. We don't want to stay on the existing screen. So that's why it's doing that. So if we close this now and we go to our save, just to tie this all together, right? Now we're going to save. It sees that the go back check, which we've set to true from our shared result, is there. It's grabbing the contact ID that we've created and it's going back, okay? So let's go ahead and let's see if this works. Okay. Now, the only thing that we need to consider now, oh, yeah, we forgot to do one crucial step. Okay. So it's grabbing that contact ID. It's going back to our potential deal screen, but we didn't configure or customize anything yet in our potential deal screen to tell Method what to do with that contact ID. So let's do that. So now they're setting a shared result to say, let's take this ID and let's transfer it back to our potential deal screen. Let's copy. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to our potential deal screen. Okay. Okay. And on screen focus, okay, I want to put a conditional. And my conditional is very similar to that conditional that you saw on the new contact screen, where we're going to say shared result. This is the name of the shared result, right? Is greater than 0. And the reason why we're not doing yes or no is because the value that we're capturing after we create the contact is different than the value that we were grabbing when going to the contact screen, which was a Boolean value, a yes no value. But when you create a contact, the contact that gets created doesn't output a Boolean value. It outputs a record ID, which is a number. So what we're telling it is take the shared result and check to see if it has a number contained in it. Because if it does, that means that it created a contact and we need to bring that contact back in. Okay. So we're going to say if shared result has a contact record ID, right? We're going to go ahead and we're going to clear that shared result, right? So we're going here and we're resetting it. We're saying reset shared result, right? And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to update. Actually, we should actually do this beforehand, okay? So we're actually going to update the contacts dropdown with the shared result. Okay, so populate contact dropdown with newly created contact. Okay, then clear the shared result. So this is good that I ran into this in front of you. We need to first update the contact on the potential deal with the new contact that we created before we clear it. Because if we clear it first, method, you got the value, but then you cleared it. So now method lost the contact and it's gonna update the contact with nothing, with blank. Okay. So order of operations, again, very important in method. So let's close this and let's test this out. Now it might not work. If it doesn't, we'll figure it out. Okay. Okay, so now we got John Derringer. We want to go ahead and we want to add a contact John Derringer, okay? And right here, one thing I already noticed that didn't work is that it should have chosen ABC Industries Inc. and it's due to that bug, like I said, okay? So let's go ahead and fix that. Excuse me. Let's go custom row click, grab customer entity record ID, go to screen. Now the new contact is going to be entity record ID, not the screen active record ID. So that was a mistake. We're telling method. So we're telling method, grab the record ID of the potential deal and put it as the customer, which is the wrong record to capture. It's actually we're grabbing the customer from the contact dropdown. So John Derringer's customer. So that was the mistake. So let's try that again now and see how it cleared out again. We got to put it back to clear screen. This is something that they will fix. Okay. Okay. So let's try this again. Add contact. There we go. It automatically shows up. ABC Industries. That's John Derringer's company. I'm going to put it again. Let's do Louis DeVille. Made up name. I don't even know who Louis DeVille is. But anyways. So let's just create the name. Okay. And let's just hit save. Notice how the save and new button is not here anymore, which means that the logic is working. Because if it wasn't working, we would have seen a save and new button, which means that it didn't grab that shared result. So you can now see this happening in the front of method based off of what we did in the back, okay, in the background. Now let's hit save. There we go. Now you see Louis DeVille populated on the contact dropdown. You don't have to select Louis DeVille. Now, to conclude this video, I just want to say this is just a very simple example of how shared results work. I hope it made sense to you. If it didn't, feel free to reach out to me. I'll leave my contact information down below. I'm more than happy to help. But you can do a lot more with shared results. Shared results, are used as outputs for calculations that need to be brought over to a different app and method. Just think of a shared result as I need to grab information that was on one side of method in one app, and I want to now bring it over to this app in method. So action results, only live within the calculation itself that you're creating or the logic itself that you're creating. Shared results, you're telling it, take that value, and now we're allowing that value to transfer across different apps in Method. But again, just to conclude, when you're managing shared results, you do have to make sure you're clearing them afterwards, or else it's going to break your workflows because it's grabbing a shared result from a previous workflow that was not cleared, which could be the wrong value. Anyways, guys, hope this helps. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.